What's going on, everybody? Welcome in Wager Alarm live stream. I'm your host, Howard Bender. With me here, of course, Craig Mish. Mish, what's going on, man? How you been? The week has gone by. We've watched the lines go up. We've watched the lines go down. Now it's time to start figuring out where we're going to lay our action down this week.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting week. I think we'll talk about some of the games. There's some really big ones next week. So we'll dive into some of the best games of the week. As I said last week, we'll hit on the Super Contest games. We had a down week last week. I had a down week in college football. The Super Contest was a little bit up, a little bit down. We hit the Bears on Monday to bring it back into a good spot. We did not take the Thursday night game.
Yeah, how come you don't go 5-0 every single week, Craig? Why?
I wish I could. I wouldn't be sitting here. I'd be sitting,
Neither would I.
I'd be sitting with you in Las Vegas. We'd be there, right? Or we'd be in Mississippi, or we'd be in New Jersey, or we'd be, wherever we could do it. Look, not every week is going to be good. We've done this now. The live streams for 3 weeks. We've had 2 out of 3 good weeks. So I'll take that. If we go the next 3 weeks and we have 2 out of 3 good, I'll take it again. So I think we're off to a pretty good start. In terms of interest level, again, I think what's happening, we'll get to the pros, but I think what's happening in college is the discussion, a lot of it is about Alabama. Alabama is just crushing teams left and right. People are still betting against them, assuming that there's going to be a slip up because they are 20-point favorites, 25-point favorites, 30-point favorites, and they're just covering all of these spreads. In fact, at this point of the season, I don't ever remember a college football team basically being even money, more or less, to win the national championship. You can win, basically, if you risk 100, you would only win $140 if Alabama wins the title game. I mean, usually at this point, you're getting like 3-1 or 2.5-1. The best teams in college are Clemson and Alabama, and it's just not close right now. Certainly when we get to the playoff and there's 4 teams, anything can happen. But it's taken a little bit of the intrigue out, I think, in the early part of the season. Now, Alabama will still play Auburn. They'll play LSU, and we'll get to those deep SEC games. But for the time being, at least the early part of the schedule has been cupcake-ish, to say the least. But next week, we have some really good ones, which we'll get to in a minute. But I got a few games in college this week, Howard. We'll see how they line up. And hopefully we do better than we did last week. 1-2. We should have won 2-1, but 1-2 was the record last week.
We totally got rolled on that North Texas game. That was a load of crap. That was terrible. We had that one at halftime. 44 points at halftime. 44.
Another one even easier. The total was 48 under, and then with a minute to go, they went over. So, but no, I don't make any excuses for this stuff because we'll get lucky at different times. The only excuse that you could make betting in a game last week that I saw was our Super Contest play. Oh, no, we didn't use it, I don't think. Because Green Bay was +7. Was if you took the Vikings at any point last week and that kicker, I mean, that is the kind of game where if you took Minnesota and you lost, I don't blame you. The kicker completely blew it. You were on the right side, as they say in that game. Beyond that, there was nothing last week. Every loss was a loss. But we'll hit some college football now.
All right, before we hit the college football, though, there's something going on actually in the old gaming community here, and I'm curious as to your thoughts. I can't remember if we touched on this at all on the Tuesday live stream when it all went down, but the guy who bet he bet $1,000 on a 750-1 glitch on the Denver on the outcome of the Denver game.
I think it was $100.
$100 then.
1,000 they'd be broke, so it would be $100. Yeah.
All right, so $100. So what happened was Denver was getting the ball. The game was tied. The odds came up of what it was supposed to be for Denver to win the game, and for whatever reason, whatever glitch it was, it came out at 750-1. The dude laid down action on it. It was an obvious glitch. He wanted to get paid his $82,000. FanDuel offered him. Originally, they offered him $500 and some Giants tickets, which, I mean, you know what? Let's just, no, $500 and Giants tickets is not $82,000. However, it was still more than what he was going to get had he, just had the real odds actually come up.
Right.
So FanDuel tried to help him out that way. He said no. He started to lawyer up. Now, where are you at with this? Because word is today that FanDuel said, you know what? Here's your money.
Yeah.
Take it and go.
Yeah. It reminds me of when we have these fans that catch the home run ball. It's like, the ball doesn't belong to you. It belongs to the player. It means more to him. Oh, really? I think I'm holding this bleeping ball, and A-Rod's making $500 million. If I want to ask for like season tickets, that's my right. I've never got that. These sanctimonious people who say that it's the player's ball. Now, look, if it's a nobody player and they hit the first home run of their career, yeah, I mean, you probably want to give the ball back. But I'm sorry, when Mike Trout hits his 500th career home run and I catch it, it's not Mike Trout's ball. He's going to have to pay something, and probably a lot. Never understood that one. This is a little bit similar with FanDuel thinking, oh, we'll just kind of make it right because we screwed up. Now, look, truth be told, Howard, here's what could have happened. What could have happened, and by the way, rewinding a little bit, was the odds would have been in this guy's favor regardless, because at that point, Oakland was winning, so the odds were against Denver winning. He bet it, he saw a bad line, and he got it. Right. But in general, Howard, the way that this works is honestly, the gaming commission usually is going to side on the side of the maker and say that it was a bad bet and it can't be cashed. But I think in this case, particularly because of this new world that we're going into, you do not want to get on the wrong side if you're FanDuel of these people thinking that, man, like, am I going to get paid if there's a mess up? Now, I think moving forward, what they'll say is, hey, look, if we have a bad line, you're not going to get paid. Now, there are some restrictions, and they do say that in some of their, dictation that they have on the site. But I think now people have to understand that's going to be a one-time thing. But look, lesson learned there. I think FanDuel did the right thing. Brandon McManus, the kicker of the Broncos, a couple nights ago tweeted out, "You got to pay that guy. He was counting on me to make that field goal." I thought that was really cool that everyone's starting to get involved in the gambling community as well. But yes, I think good job by FanDuel. Good press for them to show that they did that. But there are companies, Howard, by the way, that if you are betting online and you do it a lot, you've had an account, and you see a bad line and you email in to let's say the contact person or the help person, right, and they catch it, they'll send you like a few $100. They'll usually put money in your account. Hey, thanks for catching that. That could have cost us a lot of money. I've seen that happen a lot. So if you're snooping out there, but again, I guess this is because it was new with FanDuel. But again, this was in-game wagering, where at least the chance is there more likely to be a mistake than not. But I've had experiences with that as well. Horse racing is something typical, that there can be a screw up every once in a while with the odds and the trifecta. But in this one, the end game is 82,000. I think he ended up winning off that. Yeah,
82K he walked away with. FanDuel salvages their reputation. It got sullied for a little bit, but whatever. It happens. But hey, guys, remember, who you're betting on is just as important as who you're betting with, right? That's why we partnered up with mybookie.ag. All right, they're your best bet. They've been in business for years. They got great reviews online. Their mobile site's super easy to use. Just visit fantasyalarm.com/mybookie. Use a promo code ALARM, and MyBookie will match your deposit dollar for dollar. Fantasyalarm.com/mybookie. Promo code ALARM for dollar-to-dollar match. Now, Mish, let's dive in. Let's talk college. Right before the stream, we were talking about the line on the Minnesota-Maryland game here.
Yes.
Let's get to it.
Okay, so we'll start off with the first game. It's an early one tomorrow for you. You'll be you're always up, so you'll see some of it. Minnesota, this line has kind of gone back and forth. This morning it was Minnesota getting 1.5 at Maryland. John Mpemba tells me I can get this line now at +2.5, and I would advise buying it to 3 as I would with a 2.5. Okay, so why take Minnesota? This is the first season that the Gophers look like a legitimate, not just a bowl team, but maybe a team that can win 8 games. I mean, it's been a while for them. Remember their coach Jerry Kill. It's been a struggle for them. Their defense is now allowing, under 30% conversions on third down. Now, Maryland opened up the season against Texas. They look great. They haven't looked good since. But here's something that I don't like to use because but you have to find things within a game, a narrative to follow. And I don't want to use this as the reason. It was part of my reasoning without even looking at it, and I found this and said, "Whoa!" Very unfortunately, a player on the Golden Gophers passed away last week. He played
Maryland,
with them.
The Terps, right? It was the Terps.
He passed away. So, what I think, wasn't it on Minnesota? I thought it was on
Minnesota.
Yeah, I think it was on Minnesota. Or this whole thing is completely wrong.
No, I'm gonna have to check on that. I thought, because I remember when we were first talking about it was Maryland.
Maryland, right? Okay, so okay, so I am right here. Okay, so
yeah, so they rallied for the first game.
Now I think at this point this is a good spot for Minnesota. The only thing that could doom them, hypothetically, is their offense isn't really that great. The line was 3. It went down to 1.5. Now 2.5. I think there's a chance here that the wrong team is favored. I think the line is very close. I'm going to take Minnesota plus the 2.5, potentially buy it up to 3. Maryland, to me, is a little bit of a fraudulent team. They've only looked good once. As I said, it was against Texas. I think Minnesota wins the game outright.
I can dig that. I can get behind that one at all. Yeah, I mean, listen, it makes sense. When we talked about the Maryland game, I think it was like the first live stream that we had done together, and we had talked about the fact that we didn't know, would the players rally around this? Would this be something that would really just kind of weigh heavy on their hearts in the locker room and carry that out onto the field? So with that said, yeah, now having seen them lose 2 games in a row right after that, it definitely makes sense. All right.
Okay. So now let's rewind here for a minute, because we're gonna have to go back and we're gonna have a correction here. Okay. Now, one of the reasons why I took Minnesota this morning, okay, and I thought so when I saw this last week. Okay, so let me read it to you. Nick Connolly, who was an offensive tackle on the Gophers, passed away last week at the age of 22. He died of cancer, and the Gophers are dedicating this game to him. Okay.
Wow, I mean,
everyone's dying.
Seriously,
Listen,
I'm glad I'm not going to college.
Again, I thought that what I was looking at was the case. Yeah, this is a game Minnesota's dedicating to a player who passed away. Howard, they're going to win this game.
All right, listen, I'm definitely in on it. I was in on your narrative.
Maryland this offseason, the player also
from the hazing.
Away.
That was the hazing issue.
Right, but this young kid unfortunately had cancer, and they're going to do a whole thing pregame with his jersey and everything. Roll Gophers.
Go Gophers, absolutely. All right. Let's get off of this topic here before we start getting everybody all depressed. Everybody's like, thanks for the live stream, guys. Bye-bye.
Great job.
Really uplifting.
I was like, because I watched the Big Ten Network, and I watched the preview of this game, and they mentioned that the kid on Minnesota passed away. I'm like, oh, wow. Like, I got to look at and see that. I got to not only look at the breakdown after, but I got to look at the line, because usually when this kind of thing happens, a team rallies. And I hate to use it as a reason for a bet, but I thought I was right on. But you said it, and then John in my ear said Maryland too. I'm like, I'm pretty sure I'm right here. Let me Google this, So anyway, so that's game 1. Minnesota plus 2.5 if you can online, buy it to 3. Game 2. This has been a dominant series. Now, picking on or against Texas on the live streams, I am undefeated so far this year. We'll try to keep it going this week. TCU's Darius Anderson, you can hear about him in the NFL next year. 150 yards last week against Ohio State. I watched this game at halftime. TCU was in it. They fell apart in the second half. Ohio State's one of the best teams in the country. They'll get Urban Meyer back this past week. They look pretty good against Ohio State. Last year, TCU won 24-7 against Texas. The year before, TCU beat Texas 31-9. And in the last 5 years, TCU has 153 points, and Texas has 33. Let me say that again. 153-33. Tom Herman is really good as an underdog. He's the head coach of Texas. He covers a lot of games as an underdog, and he has said for some reason when his teams are up against it, they win. I think TCU is just far superior in this spot. I don't like Texas quarterback either. TCU still one of the best defensive teams in the country. They got lit up by Ohio State. It happens. It happens to a lot of teams. TCU, I'm going to go with the favorite on the road, -3 in this game against Texas.
Love it. One more. Let's head out to the Pac-10. Nobody died in that game. Thanks.
Good. We're good there. Boy, no parents of these kids watching this live stream for sure. Okay, the third game, Oregon State, one of the worst teams in all of college football. Okay, they play Arizona this week. You all right?
I'm okay.
I already have something to apologize for Yom Kippur. I thought we got that.
Me too.
The Beavers, their quarterback Jake Luton, not going to play this week. Look, you got to take the other side here. Khalil Tate, he was one of the Heisman favorites going into the season. He hasn't looked that great running the ball. He threw 5 touchdowns in the air last week. He's all first-team Pac-12. He can run. He can throw. I think he does that a little bit this week. Look, Arizona, they haven't played a lot of good teams. They crushed Southern Utah last week, so it's a really hard determiner. And Arizona's defense isn't really that good, but neither is anybody else in the Pac-12. I think the key here is Oregon State's quarterback being out. They've looked awful over the last couple of years. I think that Arizona gets it done. They're laying 7 on the road. I don't mind doing that in the Pac because there's a lot of points usually being scored in these games. So my third game will be a big road favorite. Ironically, I'm taking 3 road teams this week. Minnesota plus 2.5, TCU -3, and Arizona -7. Now, what's strange, as I said, is this year we don't have a lot of marquee games. And usually for a live stream like this, I'll go to a small school, not break down the big games. But I would like to have one of those on the schedule. But I think that we will next week. Ohio State, Penn State, that's a monster. Stanford, provided they beat Oregon this week, and that's going to be a good game too. They'll play Notre Dame next week, so that's kind of like an early season elimination game. And then my Gators, if they can pull it out this week against Tennessee, they'll play Mississippi State, so that'll be the big SEC game next week. So I think we do have some better games next week, and we'll have some good ones in college football, but in terms of top 25 ranked teams playing each other, we don't have a ton this week.
Okay. All right. I can definitely get down with that. So I like it. So, yeah, I mean, it says it across the ticker at the bottom. Minnesota plus 2.5, TCU -3, Arizona -7. I love it. Lock it down. Boom. Let's get to some NFL talk. Also, guys, if you're into fantasy sports, which there's a lot of crossover, wager alarm, fantasy alarm. Listen, DFS, seasonal fantasy sports, fantasy alarm is what you want. It's analysis, it's tools, it's everything you could possibly want. Last year, Bob Boris, who won $500,000 on FanDuel playing DFS, guess what? His first tweet was thanking Fantasy Alarm for the playbook. So, boom. Full season, NFL, $75. It's seasonal and daily. FantasyAlarm.com/Bender. Get that. Boom. All right. Let's talk about our games here for the Super Contest. This was a weird one. You know, there were games that we really liked, and then there were some games that we just sat there back and forth, until we both annoyed each other to the point where we were like, dude, just pick a game. So here we are. But you know what, though? I kind of like our picks.
Yeah, I do. Like I think that most people will think we're crazy for these picks. But remember what we talked about last week for those of you who bet on the NFL. Yep. The top 5 most picked games by people who were throwing down thousands of dollars in this contest all lost. All the top 5 games lost. So if it looks pretty, it's usually ugly. So I think we're there. We're at week 3 where when the lines look a little strange, I'm going to go the other direction. And that's part of the strategy, I think, this week. First game is not one of those games. The first game that we're going to pick is Baltimore. The Ravens are -5.5. If I get the line wrong in the Super Contest, tell me.
Nope, I'm on it.
Okay.
5.5.
5.5 against Denver. Denver is the worst 2-0 team I've ever seen. Denver did not look good against Oakland last week. I thought Oakland outplayed them for the majority of the game. And I really wasn't impressed with the Broncos against Seattle. We saw what happened to Seattle against the Bears. I think the Ravens having 10 days off, getting back home, finding a way to get the ball more to Alex Collins, who's their playmaker, and Crabtree. Flacco was just really uncomfortable last Thursday night against Cincinnati for whatever reason. And I just don't like Denver. Keenum has not looked good to me. Their defense is good, but I think this is a good home spot for the Ravens. I don't usually like to lay a lot of points in games in general in the NFL. I don't mind laying less than a touchdown here. I think the Ravens are going to win this game. I think Denver falls to 2-1. I think Baltimore wins by 7.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, I thought, I think a lot of people are underestimating Cincinnati because they're sitting there. They're like, everybody's like, oh man, look at what the Bengals did to the Ravens defense. And I think that we are kind of underrating what's going on in Cincinnati with Bill Lazor as the new offensive coordinator over there. I mean, he's had the time now. He took over last year, but he took over in like week 3 or week 4. So now he's got his own scheme, his own plan, his own personnel, who he's worked with, and he's also the former quarterback's coach for the Bengals. So he's very familiar with the pluses and minuses of Andy Dalton, something that Ken Zampese really wasn't dealing well with. I mean, he was really trying to force the run, and Lazor thought it was just a much more up-tempo team. Now, I think the Ravens weren't exactly ready for that last week. Now, here they have sitting there at home now. I like it. I like the secondary a lot more than what they showed last week. So I don't mind this 5.5 points. I do think that the Ravens can win this one by a touchdown, especially at home. Like I like the home start also here.
Yeah, 10 days off.
Traveling.
10 days off. Usually teams that come out of Denver, whether it's them or someone else, usually fade in the fourth quarter. Look, the running back Lindsey on Denver has been really good, and not having C.J. Mosley there is a factor, no doubt, for Baltimore. But these young running backs, the little guys, they tend to fade as the season goes on. I know we're still early on in the year, but we'll see. Baltimore usually plays very well at home. I think this is just a good spot for them. So that's our first pick. Second pick, we'll go with an underdog in this one. And look, the Chiefs and Pat Mahomes, they've been great. There's no question about it. San Francisco has also looked very good on offense, but they haven't looked good on defense either. I think the total in this one is like 56 points. But I think that we're going to go with the 49ers here. I think that's the way to go. Look, Mahomes is not going to throw 70 touchdowns, I don't think. I mean, if he did, it would be an all-time record. And I think that the 49ers can probably cover on a back door here. I think they can stay in this game offensively. They've shown enough last week offensively. Both with Garoppolo and Matt Breida ran the ball very well. The 49ers defense does not look good, and they're probably going to get lit up. But I could see this game going back and forth, 7-7, 10-7, 14-10, 21-17. And I just think this is too many points. The Chiefs played very well as an underdog in the first couple of weeks. How will they perform as a favorite? I don't know. I'm going to take the points and take the 49ers here.
I actually want to take the points too. And one of the tipping points for me was knowing that Reuben Foster is off his suspension. Malcolm Smith is back. So now all of a sudden the 49ers linebacking core is actually at full strength. And Foster is one of those guys who, if they do an inside linebacker blitz, he can tear through that line. But what he can also do is he can come back and he can cover a guy like Travis Kelce. I think the over-under on this one is really large the way it is because both secondaries are absolutely atrocious. So Jimmy Garoppolo versus Patrick Mahomes, I do think Mahomes is due for a little bit of a comeback to earth kind of situation. I do think that people are really underrating the 49ers. I would love it even more if Marquise Goodwin was back for the 49ers. He's still questionable. We don't know what's going on. But George Kittle, Pierre Garçon, Dante Pettis, throw Trent Taylor in there on the slot. And I like San Francisco keeping pace. I'm not saying that they're going to win this game, but I definitely like them keeping pace enough to keep this game very, very close. So I like this pick a lot. This was one of my favorites, actually.
34-31, 29-26.
Serve it up. Serve it up.
That's the kind of game it's probably going to be because the Chiefs' defense isn't very good either. So that's our second pick. The third pick is another underdog. We're going to take the Chargers plus the 7 points at the Rams. My reasoning on this one is a couple of different things. First of all, this is a home game just as much for the Chargers as it is for the Rams. They both play in the same stadium. The Rams clearly are playing like the best team in the NFL. No doubt about that. In terms of power ratings or rankings in the NFL, they definitely should be number one. But I also think the Chargers are a competitive team. It wouldn't surprise me if they won this game outright. When was the last time the Chargers, against any kind of decent opponent, were a touchdown favorite? That's a lot. Look, talent-wise, very tough to match this Rams team. But Howard, I just think that the Chargers are in a good spot here. No travel, West Coast, East Coast, nowhere. They sleep in their own bed. The crowd hasn't been behind them in L.A. last year. It won't be behind them. It'll be a Rams crowd this week probably too. But how can you possibly ignore 7 points to a good football team against another really good football team? I'm going to take points here again. I think Chargers could win.
I love the points in this one as well. How about this? Phillip Rivers, when he is a 7-point or more underdog, is 11-3. It's not that's not against the spread. That's outright.
Straight up.
That's straight up right there. He's 11-3 when he's a 7-point or more underdog. Now, you can't ignore the fact that Joey Bosa is out, and that'll end up kind of affecting, I guess, how much work. I mean, Todd Gurley will do what Todd Gurley does, and the defensive line for the Chargers is really going to have to stand tall and really try and hold their own. The thing about it is, though, is that everybody keeps forgetting about the fact that the Chargers secondary was a top 3 secondary last year. They've returned all their personnel. They still look good. They still look strong. And if Jared Goff tries to throw on them, that's going to be problematic. So what I like here is that, again, if the Rams win, it's going to be enough to keep it close, because they're going to have Gurley, but they're not going to have a long passing game in this. The Chargers, meanwhile, Phillip Rivers, he loves to sling the rock. And that's fine that they've got Marcus Peters on one side and they've got Aqib Talib on the other, right? Funnel it through the middle there, and boom, you're fine. Keenan Allen, slot receiver, through the middle, across the middle, slant routes. That's his specialty. I'll take those yards after the catch. I'll take the Chargers and the points here. I love this pick.
Yeah, it's a little different when you look at like the Bears and Arizona, because the Bears are also like a big favorite, like 6 or 7 point favorite. They'll probably be 7 by the time it goes off. If the Bears go up 10-0, Arizona's dead. Like, they're not going to be able to come back. No matter how high the Rams go up, the Chargers can come back. They have a good offense. I hate laying 7 points against a team that can put up 30. It's not good business. So back-to-back underdogs there. One more underdog. This is going to be an ugly-looking pick, and that's just kind of my explanation for it. I think
it's 2 underdogs, and they're both on the ugly side.
I think that when the contest comes out, we'll be on the other side of the consensus here, which is where you want to be.
Yep, 100%.
Okay, you look at Green Bay at Washington. Green Bay's only -2.5. The world is going to take Green Bay. Okay. And Vegas is going to build a hotel based on Washington winning this game. We're going to take the Redskins here. It's a pick that doesn't look good on paper. Why are the Packers only -2.5 at Washington? I mean, Washington looked brutal last week against the Indianapolis Colts. This isn't a good spot for Green Bay. It's not. Rodgers is still not 100% healthy. They had to take that thing all the way down to overtime and take that all the way to the end of overtime, travel all the way back to Green Bay. Now they got to travel all the way back to Washington. It may not show up in the first half of this game, but I think the Redskins are going to win. Green Bay is still going to win their 9-10 games. I think this is a really good home spot for Washington. And if Green Bay is that much better than the Redskins, they should be 4.5-point favorites, 5-point favorites. In fact, if they were, I would take the Packers, but they're not. The line is telling you Washington wins the game. I think they will. We'll take the Redskins.
You got to figure Josh Norman is probably going to spend a lot of time watching over Devontae Adams. That is hopefully going to neutralize him. Packers can't get out of their way with the ground game. They really can't. Right. Jamal Williams wasn't good. They've already said that Aaron Jones is going to be 3rd on their depth chart. So while he'll see some carries, he's just not going to, unless he goes bananas, which he's probably not going to, then he's only going to see a handful of carries here. This team lives and dies by Aaron Rodgers, plain and simple. And he's not healthy. He's worried about his own knee. The team's worried about his knee. We had somebody from Packers.com on the show today over at Fantasy Alarm on Sirius XM, and they said that there was a concern about the knee. So this might be an ugly pick, but I'm with you here. This is definitely a pick that I can get behind. 100%.
I think consensus-wise, I'll check it out here. I'm on the BetQL app here. Hold on a second. Let me take a look at the public. The public money, it's about even 50-50 right now. So I think the contest will show that more people will take Green Bay. I want to be on the other side of it. I think it looks like an easy pick. So is that our 3rd pick or is that our 4th pick?
That was our 4th pick. Okay. Our last pick.
Another ugly one. We're going to go with another ugly one. Okay. So when I did the write-ups on the totals for wageralarm.com, I gave you guys 3 totals. One of them was under Buffalo's wins, which you guys can hug me now. You're all going to win the money on that one. That's a done deal. The other one was the Bears over 6.5. I think I'm going to get that one too. And then the third one is I think I'm going to go 3-0 because Seattle is bad. Okay. Now, the Seahawks at home over the last decade have been probably the best home team in all of football. But Howard, this is not the same Seahawks team. It's not. And again, read the line. If Seattle is so much better than Dallas, I don't think Dallas is good either. Then why isn't Seattle like 4.5 or 5-point favorites? The reason why is Dallas is going to go into Seattle and win. Seattle's done. They're not good. They can't run. They have no receivers. They have no defense. And here's where you want to be in this game. Sometimes, listen, if in both these two games that we're talking about, Green Bay, Washington, and I think even in Dallas, Seattle, maybe a little bit different for Green Bay, Washington. What is the score going to be, Howard, at the end of 3 quarters, Dallas, Seattle? What would you project the score to be at the end of the 3 quarters?
13-10 maybe.
And that's where you want to be. And that's where you want to be. Now, look, Prescott may throw a pick 6 and we lose. But you're going to give me any points on the road, and even a point, anything on the road against a team that I'm tied with. Give me the points. So I got to take Dallas here. Everyone is going to be on Seattle. It looks too easy. Oh, Seattle at home. It's the Seahawks. Seattle may be a 4-win team this year. It looks like they are. Baldwin still is out for them. They didn't have any answers last week. Russell Wilson was running from his life for Khalil Mack and the entire defense there. I think I would feel better about it if Seattle had Lynch or Sean Alexander or just somebody who could run the ball. They don't have anybody that could run either. I don't like it. Line looks bad. Taking Dallas in this one. Hate to take Dallas, but
I do too. I hate taking Dallas on this, but I mean, come on. Let's face it. If the line, if there's definitely something that you've taught me is that if that line looks really kind of funky, you really need to take a look as to why it is and kind of take advantage of that. So I'm in. All right, so let's recap it here. We got Ravens laying 5.5 for the Super Contest. So that's number 11, Ravens, number 11 at minus 5.5. Then we've got the Redskins at plus 2.5. That's number 18. We got the 49ers plus 6.5. That's number 22. We got the Chargers at plus 7. It's number 24 in the Super Contest. 5th pick here, number 28, Dallas Cowboys plus 2. We're getting some points, baby.
Let me tell you something else on that. Going back to that Dallas Seattle game, the total is 41 points. Okay, Are there going to be 4 touchdowns in this game? Can you see these two teams combining for 4 touchdowns? How?
I've already taken the under. Where
are they going to come from? 4? 20? Because look, in order for this to go over, it has to be 28 points that way. Maybe a defensive touchdown.
To Zeke. Give 2 to Zeke. Give 1 to Russell Wilson, and you're still stretching it.
I hate betting unders that are in the NFL that are under like 42. And last night's game, by the way, had the under there. That was 40.5, and it was really close at the end. In fact, had Cleveland got into a position to kick a field goal, potentially it would have went over. But again, you in the 40s, low 40s, you still have to try and project 4 touchdowns. And in a game, for example, like the Bears, going back to the Bears in Arizona, where that total is 37, I think that game has a better chance to go over because I think the Bears could put up 37. They could just keep scoring at will. Arizona's not very good. Dallas's offenses look terrible. Seattle's offenses look terrible. And conversely, the one thing Dallas has going for them is their defense. So I see like a 17-13 type, 19-16 type game. I'd be very surprised to see a lot of points in that game.
All right. I love it.
All right.
We did, right? Boom. Let's go 5-0, baby. Why not? Let's go against the chalk. Let's get paid. Let's enjoy. Let's have a good time. That's going to do it for us here on the live stream. We got to get our Super Contest picks in now, and you guys are hopefully going to do that as well. For Craig Mish, I'm Howard Bender. This has been the Wager Alarm live stream. We'll see you next time.